I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
What?
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
What the hell?
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Is there something here? In the moon, maybe? No. Continue.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent. Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Are you sure about this? My man, are you sure you want to do this?
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
Yeah, but call.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
What about no? But these are your memories, mate, so let's go for them.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
No, it's not. It's geometric.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Something in the ground? On the stone over there? No. Over there? No.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
Yep.
Whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
What happened? There is something worshipping the thing? No, there is not. Thank you, God. Okay, there's water here.
Now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
There is
And
bright.
revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
There is something over here in the sea. The water down there, what the hell? Why are we here? You should have stayed with the boat.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
There is a turtle.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Oh, wait, there's something over here. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings and the Mountains of Madness, the nameless city, Journals and characters note the Shadow of the Time, the Haunter of the Dark, Island emerging from the ocean, the Gulf of Cthulhu, or fiction begins and the tales based on real events and mythologies, Migo in the Whispering Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Oh.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
Yeah, they are.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of the marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Oh.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Oh, God.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Huh.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
So that's the case. There's nothing here. Oh wait, that is... I believe that was another thing. Lovecraft will often use the latest scientific discoveries as inspiration for his works. He will even update his stories at the last moment in order to make sure they reflect the latest breakthroughs. Unfortunately, the method was not without its flaws. After Lovecraft's death, the Piltdown man discovered and mentioned in Dagon turned out to be a paleoanthropological fraud. In 1912, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, announced that he had discovered the missing link between ape and man, the fossilized remains of a previous unknown early human. Years later, they turned out to be a forgery, but by that point, the fraud had already managed to negatively affect the early research on human evolution. In the years when the discovery took place, the majority of the scientific community believed Dawson indeed found the missing link. In 1953, Time magazine published evidence provided that Dawson was a conman. It turned out that the fossil of the previous unknown early human consisted of a human skull, the jaw of an orangutan, and a chimpanzee teeth. Oh yeah, I know this thing, I studied it in archaeology. Continue.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Oh no.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What? Oh damn it.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
This is bad. This is terrible!
Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh damn. No, don't lose your head, my man.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
It's raining? Is the water coming back up?
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
I sang a great deal. Going.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Good.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Is there anything in here? There's something over there. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1950, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which includes political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again, for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1970, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example, excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude toward warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations will undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare, until the basic impulses of human animals shall have miraculously changed. Okay, you don't believe in peace. I believe in peace, but well, people have different opinions. Ah! Found you! In Defense of Dagon. In 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays. The Defense Reopens, The Defense Remains Open, and Final Wars. Later published as a collection titled In Defense of Dagon, in which he rebunked a series of criticism directed at his works, some notable quotes. I paint what I dream, and will let the public settle the rest among themselves. Mr. Munday asked the raison d'etre of Dagon. I will give it, purely and simply to reproduce a mood. In objects it is simply in all art, portrayal. The physical horrors of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on the entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts. The mind can get more thrills from unrealities than from realities. In the essay, Lovecraft touched upon the topics of atheism, materialism, and the quest for truth and the love of science. Okay, let's continue.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Oh. Take a look at that. Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prisoner warden in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, and in Hebrew the word deg means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft works, Dagon is an underwater deity rolling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Something in this scroll? Take a look at that, you became a freaking genius. I don't see any problem with this. I think you win. Well, you are going to be penniless soon, so I wonder why. Nothing over here? No. So let's continue. What happened to you that you ended up penniless?
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Let me guess, the Necronomicon? August Derleth and Cthulhu Mythics. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's work after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's work were often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the authors left the mortal plane. Interesting. Really, really interesting. There is any secrets over here somewhere. Yes, it is. The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempt to find a job in 25 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine, where he will write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copyright skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraced both the usual structured units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, deepest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship with energetic enterprise can command. And made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and a trademark on the individual pieces prevent any substitution by careless contractors. Source: Lovecraft Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, H.P. Lovecraft, Satoshi Shoshi. Anything over here? I think I have already gathered all of what it was. Or is something over there? No, there's nothing over here. Let's go over there. Is there anything over anywhere? What the hell? I didn't know there was something over there. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in this story, critics point out that man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted, in defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he will indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an allogy to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet, in the 19th century and the early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were at the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was a gender specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. I don't know, where did I read that? Is there anything in the book? Anything on the box? Anything on the clock? No. I need to go out of here, but where? Oh, over there. Okay. Let's go. Oh, we're back.
At night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
I would say not take the route of suicide, but you are in a situation. Lovecraft, tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Celia Brown, dated 30 February of 1928. As for the manner of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicated liquor. I never intended to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or courses the delicacy natural equipoise of the vulgar human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I do not drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition, the prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft Letters to Celia Brown, read Bishop H.P. Lovecraft in Berlin, and perfect. So Lovecraft was a prohibitionist. Who would have thought? Let's go. Time to go and die.
I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm.
Maybe.
A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war.
Probably.
This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
Oh God.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Jesus. Is there anything I can see? No.
The end is near.
What is that?
I hear a noise at the door.
Is that the
as of
door?
some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Jesus. Is there anything over here that I need to look? Oh my God, something is at the door and it's not good. It won my head.
It shall not find me.
Uh-oh.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Is there anything I need to see before I jump to my death? No, there is not. Bye-bye! Oh. We hope you enjoy immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We will appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check our other games and DLCs. Love that! Thank you for playing. Thank you for making the game. I'm gonna buy the DLCs and I'm going to play them if they are in games. I don't know if they're games, but I think they were cheap, so I will do it. So, that was all the time I have for today. Thank you very much everybody for watching. I hope you have a blast. I was the Lost Chevalier, signing out. Bye bye.